Travel! Ano ka ba? Travel! Traveling yun!
Legal!
In basketball, one of the most basic rules is the traveling call. Let's be honest though, there's an instant impulse to call it whenever we see something out of the norm. But what is a travel and why isn't it as basic as you think? To better understand, we need to go over some definitions. First, the gather. According to the NBA rulebook, a gather is the moment a player either puts two hands on the ball, puts a hand underneath the ball, or gains enough control to change hands, pass, or shoot. Once the ball is gathered by the player, only two steps are allowed before coming to a stop, taking a shot, or making a pass. Next, the concept of the live dribble. Based from what the rules say, we could infer that a dribble is considered live until a gather happens. This means that the ball handler has total freedom during a live dribble as long as he doesn't do anything illegal. So if a player is careful enough with his hand positioning, he could more or less bend the rules, such as taking an infinite amount of steps, hopping with the ball, landing on the same foot, dribbling above his head, doing a crossover, doing a spin move, or doing a hezi, etc. The zero step. This is where it gets a bit tricky, so the first step is only counted once a foot or both feet touch the floor after the player gathers the ball. This then brings in the so-called zero step, wherein the initial step the player takes isn't counted since the ball wasn't technically gathered yet.
Legal!
So, with all this leeway, when would you actually travel? After receiving the ball, a stationary player is freely able to pivot. He could even choose which foot to pivot on if he catches the ball with both feet on the ground. However,
Travel!
he should release his dribble before lifting his pivot foot. Otherwise, this would be called a travel. If the player is in motion, whether after a dribble or off of a catch, after he gathers, a player is only allowed two steps, with the first step being the pivot foot. After the second step, he could either stop, pass, or shoot.
Travel!
Any further steps after this is called a travel. With all of those out of the way, there are still some exploits and loopholes a player could take advantage of, such as the player could lift his pivot foot. As long as it doesn't land on it, it's all good. A jump stop is considered as one step. If the first step is a jump stop, the player could choose which foot to pivot on and freely take a second step. The height and length of the step doesn't matter. You could take a lunge and it would still be considered one step. Finally, the player could step in whichever direction he chooses, allowing for step backs, side steps, euro steps, and the like. So yeah, before you call a travel, think twice, think thrice, heck, think 4 times. Because most moves are more legal than you think. Travel? If you like the video, press that like button there. And while you're at it, please share. And oh, don't forget to subscribe.